Welcome to the 50 Shades of Pain podcast. My name is Dr. Danny Shapiro, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy. If you're in pain or had terrible medical experiences, I will be telling you why the medical system is broken and why you probably feel stuck within it. If you've ever left a doctor's office and thought, what was that? Is that it? Well, then this podcast is for you. So I suppose a little intro into who I am and why you should listen to me is important. Prior to becoming a physical therapist, I was a professional ballroom dancer, and I did that for about 16 years. I was a U.S. champion as I was a kid, and I traveled the world, and I had a very big deep dive into how the body functions, how it's supposed to function, the things that can happen if you don't take care of it. And one of the things that actually pushed me into the physical therapy world was because, I saw a lot of people getting injured right and left around me. And dancing world at the time didn't really have any good connections to good quality healthcare. People who were getting injured were mostly taking Advil and then just carrying on as best they could, unless it was a full blown tear or some kind of ligament tear. But the medical sphere around the dance world was abysmal, to say the least. And the support just weren't there. It was not up to par to where it should be for people who are elite athletes, to be honest with you. And so that actually is what pushed me into becoming a physical therapist and diving deeper into understanding the body and how can we actually optimize it so that we can avoid injuries, or at the very least, if an injury does happen, how can we treat it effectively to the point where we can get the person back to where they were and not enter into a chronic pain state, which is what I see as a practice owner now. Chronic pain is one of the most prevalent things that I see. But I see very rarely do I see someone come in with a fresh injury. The majority of the people that I see are those who have been in pain for a very, very, very long time. People who've been in pain for months, years, decades even. And the reason why they're in pain is because they just haven't had good quality health care. Now you might think, well, okay, if they went to a physical therapist, all physical therapy is the same. And I can tell you right now, it is absolutely not the same. And the people who are in chronic pain for months and years and decades down the line, when they come in through my doors, they are not in that same pain. We actually, most of the time, completely eliminate that pain to begin with. And people are shocked to find out that they could have been not dealing with this pain all along. And this is why I think it's so important to understand that when we're dealing with these kinds of things, and this is why I started this podcast, is I want to break down a lot of these false misconceptions about what people are told when they go to a doctor's office, when they go to PT, when they go to a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, a massage therapist. There's a lot of nonsense being thrown around, and people don't know the difference because it's not your job to know the difference. You're going to see someone because you're looking for help. You're looking for answers. You're looking for someone to guide you through whatever issue that you're dealing with, whether it's musculoskeletal, neuromuscular pain, or anything else, whether it's hormonal issues, whatever it may be. But there's a serious, serious gap in education and information that is given from the provider, whatever provider you're seeing, to the patient. And this is where I want to come in and just shed light on all these things, break away a lot of the fear that's going on, a lot of the anxiety that happens as a result of misinformation or just no information, and help to guide everybody a little bit better into the direction that they need to go. Now, I love the human body. To me, the human body is just so fascinating. There's so many interesting things that go on with the body, especially as it pertains to pain. And there's so many things that are involved, not just the initial injury, but also how your mind perceives itself, how the mind perceives the body, how the mind has such a massive impact into the actual pain levels, and just the things that you enjoy, that you would just avoid doing because of this pain. A lot of people don't understand the idea behind compensations, right? We hear this word all the time: compensations, compensations. I have pain, compensations begin. But what are they? Most of the time, compensations are subconscious changes in how your body starts to function. And that all revolves around the kind of pain that you have and how it impacts you in particular. And no pain is the same. I can have 20 people come in with low back pain, and everyone's going to have completely different compensations around that low back pain. So again, like this is why I wanted to do this podcast. I wanted to do this podcast to educate, to entertain, to blow your mind about what physical therapy is supposed to look like, as well as other medical services. What are they actually supposed to look like for you? And what do we got to do? What do we got to do to get you out of pain, feeling great, more positive, and not feel like you are in a prison just inside of your body and just at the will and whims of however it's going to feel that day. When you wake up in the morning, are you praying in the morning just to get out of bed and without pain for the first 5 minutes? Are you running to the shower to crank the heat on that hot water and just to stand there for 20, 30 minutes just to warm your body up? How can we break the cycle? How can we break the cycle? And we need to understand that there's so many different, like I mentioned, there's so many different things around your pain. And that's why I named this podcast 50 Shades of Pain, because there's there's so many different aspects and things to think about, which again, I will be shedding light upon. And so I'm so glad that you're here just on this journey with me. And we're going to be uncovering so many crazy, crazy things. And this podcast is going to be also kind of situated in different levels. There's going to be times when it's just me talking. There's gonna be times when I have a guest, so a former patient of mine or a current patient. There'll also be times when I'm going to be having another medical professional on. So there's gonna be a lot of really, really great, great topics of conversation, and there's some funny things, some serious things. It's gonna be an emotional roller coaster that we're all gonna ride together. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and being part of the ride. So, the first episode, the first real episode of this podcast, I think it's only fitting if we talk about chronic pain, because that is actually something that I specialize in. I specialize in fixing chronic pain. So, I want to actually start off by reading off a quote that I wrote up the other day, and that I think is very, very pertinent and actually very important to the actual chronic pain space. All right. So, and it goes as follows. The delusion that most people with chronic pain live in, to no fault of their own, is that they believe chronic pain will always be there, hence the name, right? But that couldn't be farther from the truth as it pertains to musculoskeletal or neuromuscular pain, at least for most cases. Most people just haven't found someone who can actually find the true cause of their pain. Now, this is actually something super heavy, super deep, and very important to understand. I've seen people who've been in pain for months, who've been in pain for years, decades even. And the overlying factor is that they just haven't found someone who is able to adequately look at the pain, understand the pain, and then, of course, treat the pain. I've seen chronic pain across major joints, knees, shoulders, low back, hips. People who've been told they have bone-on-bone arthritis, which I think is another garbage phrase that actually doesn't really mean much. And again, this is going to be its own its own separate episode. But people just don't understand chronic pain. And the perfect example of this is, I'll have a patient, they come to me and they say, Danny, I've been in pain for 3 years. Actually, I had someone just this morning say, hey, Danny, I've been in pain for 3 years. I've tried a physical therapist. I've tried a chiropractor. I've tried this special massage place. I've tried acupuncture. I've tried this. I've tried that. Yet, 3 years down the line, still got this pain. What do I do? How do I get rid of this? And, when we dive in and understand that, and again, this is, by the way, almost every single patient of mine. This is almost every single patient that I've had in the last 4 or 5 years. This almost exact same copy and paste. Maybe the only difference really is perhaps a number of providers someone's tried. But ultimately, this is the same story over and over again. And when looking at someone's pain, so let's say it's a shoulder, right? The shoulder is actually one of my favorite joints to treat, but it's also one of the hardest because of how complex it can be. The shoulder, so many muscles coming from the elbow, the neck, upper back, mid back, even the low back coming into the shoulder. And so the shoulder can be quite complex. However, when people approach care, mostly people go through insurance kind of networks, and the care is very standardized and very kind of, it's a program, which for some people is just enough to get out of pain. But for so many, especially those who come through my doors, it is not enough because it doesn't quite target the real cause of the pain. So they come in and they do with that person, the same thing they've done with the previous 50 people who've had shoulder pain, copy paste, cookie cutter stuff, day in, day out, week in, week out. It's the same stuff over and over and over again. And people who don't respond to that kind of treatment, they go to one place, they do the same thing. They go to a second place, they do the same thing. They go to a third place, maybe perhaps a chiropractor who only does adjustments, which, by the way, don't actually adjust anything. Adjustments do not adjust anything physically. Um, Again, this is also another separate podcast in itself. But again, people go for these kinds of things and it doesn't quite target the cause of their pain. And so they continue to be in pain. Now, what is chronic pain at face value? Chronic pain is any pain that's been around for longer than 3 months. I consider chronic pain something that's been around longer than 2 months, especially if it's a non-traumatic kind of pain, meaning there's been no trauma, no tears, no breaks that would constitute an extensive active healing phase. Um, but let's say, textbook definition, 3 months. So after 3 months, people are considered to be in a chronic pain state, that their pain is the same or progressing or not really changing, but the pain is present. Now, again, once people have tried one place, they've tried another place, and the results are the same across the board, meaning no results, no changes, no improvements, or very minimal, and then it just plateaus. Then people start to accept the fact that, okay, I'm just going to have to live with the shoulder pain. I'm just going to have to live with this lower back pain. I'm just going to have to live with XYZ pain. And this is my life now. I have a chest of medication. I have my hot packs, my TENS units, my cold packs, my naproxens, my gabapentins, my meloxicams. And people just accept the fact that, okay, well, this is it. This is where we party. This is, my life is over, or my hobbies are over, or every time I have to, if you have a family, every time I have to pick up my daughter, or pick up my son, or want to play with my child, I have to think twice, or I have to consider paying the consequences later, or you can't go to the gym, or you can't go to dancing, or you can't go on a hike, or you can't sleep even. These are all massive, massive problems. And again, this is the reason why chronic pain exists most of the time as it pertains to musculoskeletal or neuromuscular issues for the majority of people is that people haven't gone to the right place, right? It may seem silly or it may seem super simplified, but this is just what it is. People haven't gone to the right place. Physical therapy is not meant to be cookie cutter. Physical therapy is not meant to be putting people just on rotation without end, like without actual any concrete plans. You're not supposed to be put on a hot pack or a cold pack with some e-stim. You're not supposed to be given generic exercises that essentially stay the same. Really, you're not supposed to be given massages for the most part. Again, especially if we're dealing with some kind of active pain site, massages are going to really may feel nice, but it's not going to really do anything. You're not supposed to um, have these generic things where you look around the room and everyone's seemingly doing the same thing. Or you look around and your PT, the one that was supposed to be with you, is nowhere in sight. This is not what therapy is supposed to look like. It's not supposed to look like them giving you an exercise and then them doing some work on the computer or walking to somebody else. That is not proper care. And then people pay for it. People pay because people don't know any better. To be honest with you, people just don't know any better because that is what people have learned to accept. And that is why people just opt for medication or the injections because people do not understand that there is another way out. And again, it's not their fault. How would you feel again if you were in that same position? And maybe you listening to this is exactly the position that you're in. You just don't know of another way. You don't know of another way out, and you think that okay, like this is my experience, this is what I've been through, and this is what it's going to be like going forward. What's the point of going to another provider? It's just going to be a waste of time. And again, that way of thinking exacerbates the chronic pain because, though, again, listen, the longer you stay with this pain, the longer you don't figure it out and understand where it's coming from, the longer this pain can fester, the longer other compensations can happen, the longer, the more weakness sets in, the more other muscles and structures are involved. And the longer, and this is really the most important part, the longer you have pain, that's the longer you go on and without happiness, with misery. with concern, with stress, with anxiety, which ultimately props up your pain. And it's a very tough place to be in. And again, I have such a deep appreciation as being a patient myself. I've been a patient before. I understand what it's like to be kind of going through the ringer of really, to be honest with you, really shitty care. And it's very frustrating. It's very upsetting. It's very it's very soul crushing, and this makes it very, very challenging. But again, I want to assure you, as I've assured many of my patients, all of them really, is that when you approach this kind of pain from a very specific, very targeted side, you'd be surprised with what magic can happen. So even if, let's say, we don't get 100% of your pain gone, let's say 100%, just for whatever one reason or another, is just not possible. But what if 50% is? What if you can get rid of 50% of your pain? What if you can get rid of 25%? Where you thought 0% was possible for you, what if you got 25% better? How would that impact your life? Just think about it. How much happier would you be? How much more hope would you have? How much more enjoyment out of life would you have? Now, ultimately, of course, the goal is always to get as close to or beyond 100%. That is always the goal. But I've had so many people where they just thought they were stuck at that level of where they were. They've had 0% improvement over years, and we get a 50% improvement. And, we try to squeeze out as much as we can, but some people just stay at 50%, but they are so damn happy because that was 50% that they never thought was possible. Now, majority of my patients do get to 100%, but again, sometimes it's not possible for one reason or another. But again, that 50% goes such a long way in improving the quality of life, improving joy. That 50% is oftentimes enough for people to get back into an activity that they used to do. Um, it's enough to help them re-engage with their friends and with their family. It's enough to bring back a lot of very big, major components, major pillars of life back. And that is enough. We are meant to live a life that, at one point or another, everyone will experience some kind of pain, but we are meant to be able to enjoy it, enjoy our life rather. We should be able to enjoy our life. And if we can't, we must find a way to do that. And it doesn't matter whether you're coming to me in my clinic or you're going somewhere, you live in California, you live in Texas, you live in Spain, you live in Australia. It doesn't matter where you're from. You might be surprised as long as you don't give up on yourself and you don't stop looking. You never know what, who the next provider you might find is going to be. You might not know that the next provider that you find, whether it's a PT, whether it's a chiropractor, it doesn't matter who it is, but you never know when the next person that you find might actually be your savior, might actually be the person to guide you forward and kind of give you a new perspective, a new lease on life, a new feeling of progress, a new hope. A lot of times, when people go through pain, especially with chronic pain, people just have a loss of hope. Honestly, like, the stress is there, the anxiety is there, the all that stuff is there, the fear is there, but the biggest thing is the hope. Because once you lose hope, in my mind, like that's the ultimate sin. Let's call it. That's the ultimate sin. Where if you lose hope, that's game over. Essentially, if you lose hope, you're not gonna look for new solutions. You're gonna just accept the fact that, okay, this is my life. This is what it is. There's nothing I can do to change it, and that's it. Pack it in, call it out. And then you become okay with it when you shouldn't, when you really shouldn't. I have also so many patients that are super hesitant in the beginning. They're just super hesitant to begin. They're super hesitant to believe that something better is possible. And I try to convince them that just, hey, just give me a chance. Listen, there's an opportunity here. And then they try it and I can't. It's emotional. It's hard to talk about because really feel for my patients. But the amount of time someone has broken down on my table from, tears of joy or just pure shock on their face that it actually doesn't hurt. Or, I take them through an activity that they once had really big problems with, and suddenly they're able to do it without an issue. And the look of shock, the happy shock on their face is just beautiful. It really is beautiful, and it's exactly why I got into this profession. It's exactly why I do the things that I do, and it's exactly why I wanted to open up my own office. Chronic pain is debilitating. Chronic pain is terrible. It's around for a long time. But the reason I wanted to record this episode is just to kind of give you a little bit of a sign, of a signal to not give up hope in yourself, because you're worth it. You are worth it. Wherever you are in the world, you are worth it to feel better. You deserve to feel better. I want you to feel better. And the most important thing that you can do is not lose hope. The moment you lose hope, like I said, that's game over. But as long as you keep that hope alive and you keep looking for that provider, you keep looking for that resource, you keep looking for that whatever it is that might just be the next thing to really push you over the edge. Again, whether it's 100%, 50%, 20%, if you can get just a percentage improvement over where you've been for the last months, years, decades, again, it could change your life. And what isn't that worth it? Isn't that really truly worth it? The potential to change your life. You just have to be open minded to it. You just have to be willing to change. You have to be open to change. And that is very scary, considering that, you know, it's oftentimes very scary to just put your hope into someone. Like, you've put your hope into so many people perhaps before, and people have failed you, or the methods have failed you. And it's scary to put your hope into someone one more time. But I beg you, I plead with you, please, one more time. Put your hope, put your faith into someone one more time. And it might surprise the bejesus out of you. It might surprise the life out of you. It might just make you happy. And that is worth it. That happiness is 100% worth it. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. This is just a little dive in on my thoughts on chronic pain, or at least my approach to it, and really trying to find the true cause of your pain to fully unlock your life. uh Physical therapy is so much more. And if by the way, and if you go into a clinic where they're doing copy and paste things and no one's really giving you the attention, no one's really staying with you, no one's really with you through this journey, through this healing process, leave. Leave, try to find another place, because that is not, you're just going to waste your time. You're going to waste your time, your energy, your resources, and you're placing your hope into the wrong group of people. You're placing your hope into the wrong business. When you go to therapy, it needs to be one on one, truly one on one with the therapist. The person who's helping you is by your side the whole time, not putting you on rotation, not putting you on machines that don't do anything, not putting you on hot packs or cold packs, not putting you on the machine say, hey, do this for 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'll be right back. None of that. The person needs to be next to you. I never leave my patient's side. All right. Almost annoyingly so. I'm always there. You can't escape me. You can't escape me, baby. I'm always there with you. I'm always guiding you. I'm always adjusting, always progressing. If something's inappropriate, I change it up to make sure that it's appropriate for you. Like, that's what therapy is really supposed to be like. Yes, there's exercise. Yes, there's stretches. Yes, there's mobility programs, but it's supposed to be specific to you, and that's makes it less annoying because it's actually specific to what your needs are and what you need to do for your body for it to feel better. So chronic pain is a monster, but a monster that can be conquered and defeated. We just have to have the hope, the belief, being open minded to change and possibility of your pain and discomfort changing, and magical things will happen. So let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. And, if you have any questions, I think I can leave a poll open on this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can shoot me a message on Instagram. You can shoot me an email. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know how I can better serve you, better help you, and pump you full of energy and hope and lots of love. All right. So I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you on the next episode.